You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Hello and welcome to this week's special edition of Crosstalk. I'm your host, Kaitlyn Poindexter. Hop aboard one of these authentic vintage trolley cars and you can glide through historic downtown Memphis. From Main Street to the Peabody, it's like stepping back in time. This week, we are looking at how these iconic sites helped Memphis grow into what it is today. While nearly all of the trolley cars you see downtown today are antiques, the trolley lines they glide on are relatively new. That's because the last of Memphis's original network of trolley cars closed on June 5, 1943. More than 40 years later, Memphis leaders decided to bring them back and establish the three modern-day lines we have today. Now, as I said, the trolleys are vintage and were painstakingly restored to their former glory. The grand reopening of the trolley system on Main Street took place on April 29, 1993. 4 years later, the Riverfront line opened. And in 2004, the system was completed with the opening of the Madison Avenue line. I sat down with Gary Rosenfeld, CEO of MATA, to talk about the future of the trolleys. Mr. Rosenfeld, you are a busy man, so thank you for taking the time to talk with us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Can you explain how the trolley system has become a symbol for the Bluff City?
Well, the trolleys have been a central point of transportation in the downtown area for many years. Every great city around the world has a great transit system, and Memphis is working hard to become a great transit system to support the efforts in our community as well.
Downtown riders can jump on three main trolley lines. Where in town do they go?
Right now there's one steel wheel trolley that operates along Main Street. It goes from the north end of Main Street to the south end of Main Street. It's about 4 miles long and offers riders the opportunity to visit all of the different types of businesses and residential areas along Main Street.
I'm sure there was a lot to see. What all can riders see along these three lines?
In the south end, you've got south end of Main Street, you have the Arts District, so there's a lot of interesting shopping opportunities there. MATA, in conjunction with Henry Turley Company, has redeveloped the Central Station area of South Main, where there's a movie theater, a new hotel that'll be opening up at the end of the summer, as well as an intermodal transit center. So it's a great opportunity for people. Then along Main Street, you've got the Court Square, you've got the Government Center, and then you also have the entire restaurant district that lines Main Street pretty well.
The trolleys pass many businesses. What impact do the trolleys have on these local stores and restaurants?
Well, the trolleys along Main Street, about 50-50 ridership is tourism. The other half is people that live in the area that are just using the trolleys for their transit throughout the area. Downtown can be difficult to navigate in a car. Parking is sometimes difficult to come by, and giving people the opportunity to use the trolleys to get from point A to point B while they're entertaining within the community is a great option to have rather than driving a car.
As great as the trolleys are, they're not perfect, and in fact were out of service for a few years. What happened?
There was a maintenance issue several years back that resulted in a catastrophic fire on board two of the trolleys. So we shut the system down as a precaution to review all of our practices. And then we went through a recertification process with our stakeholder partners, the Federal Transit Administration and the Tennessee Department of Transportation. We rewrote the book on how to operate here in the system here in Memphis. Some 3,000 pages of policy, procedure, and requirements, training that all of the trolley employees have to go through and the practices that they follow. The result is that we have a historical trolley system that's operating very close to modern safety standards, and we can put a good product in the street that we can be proud of, and we certainly are.
How do you ensure the trolleys are safe now?
Well, like I said, our stakeholder partners, the Federal Transit Administration and Tennessee Department of Transportation, monitor what we do on the trolleys on a regular basis. Again, we have this new volume of policies and procedures as a reference document, and then we do regular self-audits to ensure that we are following the procedures as they're written. It can be difficult and sometimes frustrating to outside groups because the process takes time, but we are committed to maintaining the safety standards that we outlined in our process, and so far we've been able to do that.
Do you have any future plans in motion that will help further improve the trolley system?
Well, in the next couple of years we'll be adding back the Riverfront line and the Madison line. There's always opportunity to grow a trolley network or streetcar network. And as we get more and more ridership on utilizing the trolley system, I think the demand will grow for the expansion of the trolley throughout the community.
MATA is not only in charge of the trolley system, but of the buses and MATA Plus as well. How is running the trolley system different from the other types of transportation you control?
Well, the rules and regulations all by themselves are completely different. So it's a whole different mindset running rail versus bus. Very similar in nature, but it requires two sets of rules and regulations, if you will. You can't have a good rail network without a good bus network, so we have to have a reliable bus system to support the rail system, and then the MATA Plus system on top of that supports the segment of our population that might not have the same level of mobility as, say, you or I.
How do you encourage people to continue riding the trolleys, even when there is faster and more advanced modes of transportation available?
Well, the trolleys are just one piece. You know, in mobility, if you will, there's not one simple answer. It's a multitude of different answers. We embrace the idea of having people utilize the bike share program, the scooters and cars and buses and trains. It's a massive approach. You know, the scooters are very popular till it's raining, so then there has to be an option out there for people to have available to them. So we have to have the good solid transit network to support the overall mobility in our community.
Mr. Rosenfeld, thank you for sharing some information with us about the trolleys.
No, you're welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's time to take a break. When we come back, we'll learn the ups and downs of Memphis's most famous hotel.
GHS-TV started in 1982, and it was just a couple of cameras, a couple of on-air personality, and it's really grown into what you see today. It's a multi-million-dollar studio with top-of-the-line technology.
Being able to operate, all of the machinery in the control room, being able to use all of our software and hardware that we have around the studio is a great skill because this is top-of-the-line equipment.
I feel like this class has brightened my horizon. It's something that I never thought I would be doing, especially as a student.
GHS-TV is probably one of the most hands-on experiences a student will ever get in their lifetime.
Welcome back to Crosstalk. Nothing really has just the vibe that we have here.
Especially after you finish, you get a real rush of, wow, I just did that.
By the time a student graduates from Germantown High School, they will know pretty much every position there is, from producing to directing to on-air work.
You learn time management, you learn organization, you learn how to work with people, how to better communicate with people.
We put a lot on them, and they have to be able to have the responsibility and the knowledge to get everything that we ask them.
I had very little experience, so in the past 3 years, the skills that I've learned have absolutely exponentially grown.
The class has actually helped me figure out that I want to go to college for journalism.
When a student graduates, they are the best possible version of themselves that they can be.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.
For more information about the Kappa program, visit ghskappa.com or call 755-7775. You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome back to Crosstalk. As we journey through time in downtown Memphis, the Peabody Hotel has stood as the face of history and first class for 150 years. Since its opening in 1869, the Peabody has attracted visitors from around the world due to its beauty, character, and of course those famous ducks. I sat down with General Manager Doug Brown to talk about the Peabody's history and how it changed downtown for the better. Thank you, Mr. Brown, for talking with us about the impact of the Peabody.
Well, thanks for having me, Kaitlyn.
I learned something that I don't think many people know. This is not the original location. Where was it and why did it move?
It's not the original location. It was on Main and Monroe, and a lot of people say that it moved because of a fire, which is not necessarily true. There had actually been a fire a few years before, but the hotel obviously continued to operate and was fine. It really moved because if you think about that hotel was built in 1869 and closed in 1925. During that period, really a lot of changes happened in the world and in the country and in hotels. So think about the fact that during that time there weren't bathrooms in rooms and all of the modern convenience, I say modern conveniences loosely, really changed during that period. Hotels started having elevators and new things started happening. So the reality was a new hotel was built because of really changing times.
Mr. Brown, you've described the hotel as a local legend and an icon. Can you elaborate on this?
Well, I think it's a local legend because it has always been the center of kind of the city. A lot of people call it Memphis's living room. The river starts and ends, in the lobby of the Peabody. There have been so many deals and negotiations that have happened in the lobby of the Peabody. One of the fun ones that everybody likes to talk about is Elvis signed his first recording contract in the lobby of the Peabody on Peabody Stationery.
Of course, I have to ask about the cute little ducks. People from around the world come to see the ducks march twice a day. How did that tradition get started?
See, I thought you were going to ask me about my dog Tango. Because my dog Tango comes to work every day too.
Really?
Yeah, no, the ducks started back in the night. Yes, Tango does come to work every day. The ducks started in the 1930s. It really happened as a joke. The then general manager, Frank Shutt, had gone hunting in Arkansas, and he was with some of his friends, and he was sipping Tennessee whiskey because it was a cold day, so that helped keep him warm, Tennessee whiskey, Jack Daniels, and maybe sipped a little too much, and when they came back to the hotel, they thought it would be funny to put the ducks in the fountain, and it was a little cold outside, so they didn't want to leave the ducks outside, and so they, as a joke, they put them in the fountain, and they went upstairs and went to bed, and the next morning when they came downstairs, they were really surprised that the ducks were still in the fountain. But even more surprised that guests had surrounded and were watching the ducks. So the general manager turned at that point and spoke to one of our bellmen, Mr. Pembroke, who had worked for Barnum and Bailey Circus, and said, hey, is there any chance that you could march these 5 ducks down every morning into the fountain? And he said, absolutely. And so Mr. Pembroke was actually our longest standing duck master for 50 years. And so the ducks are our celebrities in the fountain.
In 1975, the hotel went bankrupt and closed. What happened?
Well, I think as you're too young to remember this, but obviously with the assassination of Dr. King, Martin Luther King, downtown really shut down and businesses went out of business, and the Peabody was no different. It went with the times and closed. And thanks to the Bells family who bought the hotel on the courtyard steps, and they put a commitment to restore the hotel and bring it back to its original luster.
We would fall back in love with it every time we walked through because there were so many beautiful features, architectural features in this property that you don't see in current hotel construction. And that's why we finally resolved that not tearing this hotel down, but rather to devote ourselves for however long it took to figure out a way to redo this hotel and reopen it and bring it back to its glory. At the same time, doing the same thing for downtown.
I think the Peabody was really what helped revive downtown Memphis, brought it back to life. And now you look around downtown Memphis and it's incredible.
The Bells family bought the hotel in 1981, despite being told it was a lost cause. What did they see in it that no one else did?
Well, I think the Jack Bells, like many Memphians, had a lot of memories in this hotel.
My wife, whose name was Marilyn Hanover, and I were dating in high school. We would come here for many parties, social affairs. Our wedding reception was in the Continental Ballroom. There was nothing in the Memphis area that could compare with the graciousness and the true beauty of this hotel.
The Bells family is entrepreneurials and they're developers and they love Memphis and they really wanted to see downtown Memphis come back to life, and they knew that the Peabody would be a catalyst in making that happen.
This year, the Peabody turned 150 years old.
I don't look that old, do I?
You're celebrating throughout 2019. How are you marking this major milestone?
It's 150 years of incredible memories, incredible history of the things that have come through, you know, this hotel and the walls. You can only imagine the things that might have been happening in this hotel 80, 90 years ago, and the things that were said. But we're doing a lot of events. In September is when we have our anniversary party, which it's the only time of the year that we actually there's 2 times a year, that we actually shut down the hotel and the lobby and everything else, and we have a huge celebration. The other time is New Year's, but we'll shut down the lobby for the celebration. And we always have somebody who we choose as the person we're going to honor that year and put them in the Duck Walk of Fame. But we always try to choose somebody who has done a lot for Memphis, a lot for downtown, and so that will happen in September. We also have a lot of merchandise that has the 150th anniversary. We redid our coffee table book and updated it for the 150th anniversary. We've got a lot of fun events and we're excited about it.
In your opinion, Mr. Brown, what aspects of the Peabody will allow the legacy to continue around the world?
I think it will be our staff. We have a great team. We have many associates that have been here 25, 30, 35 years. The average tenure in the hotel is 14 and a half years. So I think there is so much pride and joy in what everybody does that I will come and go, and like many other general managers, and the legacy of this hotel will continue. And 150 years from now, hopefully somebody else will be here doing an interview about how great the hotel is, and maybe you and I will read about it.
Well, thank you, Mr. Brown. It was great talking with you and
Thank
learning
you.
the fascinating history of the Peabody Hotel.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and go Germantown High School.
Coming up, we'll learn about the soul of the bluff city that is downtown. We'll be right back.
We see the potential in every single student.
That sounds like a confession to me.
I love watching these kids as they start as freshmen in high school and watching them mature and grow.
At last, my right arm is complete again!
The theater program at GHS, it's something special.
It is very intensive, it's very interactive.
When a student starts here their freshman year, they start with Introduction to Theater. And after that year, they have a choice to either go into acting or technical theater. And then after that, they join our production workshop class. It's the class that is completely run by students.
The students do mostly everything. We build the sets, we do lighting, we make the costumes, we do the shows.
It's very fun. I mean, everybody's very supportive of each other.
Now we're all in this together.
It's taught me so much about how to act and how to have a stage presence.
Not only are we teaching the students the skills that they need to be a great performer or a great stage manager or a wonderful lighting designer, we're teaching them skills that they're going to be able to apply to whatever they do in their life.
You guys are
this department not only makes wonderful theater, but more importantly, this department makes wonderful people.
For more information about the CAPA program, visit GHSCappa.com or call 755-7775. You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome back to this special edition of Crosstalk. I'm Kaitlyn Poindexter. This year, Memphis turned 200 years old. The downtown area has been the center of it all since its founding and continues to grow today. I sat down with Jennifer Oswald, president of the Downtown Memphis Commission, to talk about past developments as well as future plans to help downtown keep growing. Thank you, Ms. Oswald, for speaking with us today.
Thank you for having me.
As part of the Downtown Memphis Commission, what are your main priorities?
So for the last 15 years or so, our priority is to get more people to live downtown. So a lot of our incentives have been tailored to that. So we incentivize apartment complexes to be able to build a lot of housing for people to live, add density to downtown, as well as along the same lines, bringing office workers back to downtown and bringing visitors, local visitors to come down, enjoy the river, enjoy our downtown. So first and foremost, we want people to live here because that adds that vibrancy all hours of the day.
Downtown is broken up into 4 districts. Can you describe these districts?
Sure. So our downtown technically goes from the Wolf River, which is at the very tip of Harbor Town, all the way down to Crump Boulevard, but also includes the Metal Museum, which is in the French Fort area. So you have Uptown, which is generally includes Harbor Town, Uptown. You have the core of downtown, which is where all the tall buildings are, the offices. You have South Main, and then you have the Medical District. One up-and-coming neighborhood is the Edge, which is in between the core of downtown and the Medical District, but those are the core 4.
How have you seen these districts grow over the past decade?
So back in the late 80s, Harbor Town was one of our first residential neighborhoods, along with some smaller activity in the South Main. Again, single-family residential homes and some apartments. As you know, Harbor Town is now it's a mature, great neighborhood, as is South Main. But we continue to build on both of those. Across the harbor from Harbor Town is Uptown, which is mirrors with a little bit different type of housing, but a similar type of neighborhood. These have really been our strongest foothold since the late 80s. But recently we've seen a lot more attraction in the Medical District and in the core of downtown with larger housing units. One Beale being the biggest, which is right across the street from us here at the corner of Beale Street and Riverside. Breaking ground right now, and we're really excited by that. It'll add several hundred apartments right in the core of our downtown and on the entertainment area.
How do these affect Memphis's economy?
Harbor Town, again, to go back to that, is the most efficient place for the city to service because people live in tight density and they can provide services to them without having to drive all over town, to do fire and potholes and things like that. So building on that and our decision with Memphis 3.0 to build up, not out, the economic impact is huge. I mean, you have all of a sudden a couple more hundred apartments, which could be 400 more people eating in our restaurants, shopping in our stores, and not driving, especially if they live and work downtown. So, they're not adding congestion to our interstates and so on. It's just a huge lift to our economy. When the workers come down, when ServiceMaster added their headquarters and brings 1,200 people every day, that's already added several restaurants, and we can't wait to see the impact of people choosing to live downtown.
I think many people agree that one of the biggest achievements over the past few years was bringing the ServiceMaster headquarters to Peabody Place. How did that deal come about?
So it was definitely a great win for us because it took an abandoned building that had been a mall and had been empty for over 10 years, probably closer to 15. And really just brought new life to it. And it took a lot of creative people. It took a lot of work from the city, Downtown Memphis Commission, and our partner, which is the Economic Development Growth Engine, to provide incentives, which are still key. And unfortunately, people can't just make a decision like that and do it. It doesn't make financial sense. So we do have to incentivize it. But it does take some creative minds as well, some great architects to convert that space. And it now is a beautiful office, the grand entrance in what used to be the mall. But really it was ServiceMaster's decision to want to be in a place that is attractive to their employees. So they said, we want to be downtown where people can go to lunch and they can meet people out on the street and do business on the street, rather than being in a place where they have to bring their lunch and can't really get out during the day.
Memphis is one of the few cities in the United States that has a fully booked development schedule. Can you share any future plans that will help further improve the downtown area?
So one is where we're sitting right now. I think if you talk about economic impact and demand generator, the renovation of Tom Lee Park will be a huge step forward for our city. It has already brought interest from an office developer to build a site right here across the street as well, a tower, 200,000 square feet, which would be another 1,000 or 2,000 people, depending on how big they go. So the riverfront is very important. We want it to be a place that can be used 365 days a year, maybe 24 hours a day too, let's hope. We have challenges. You can see how high it is today, but it's obviously a great thing for us. And then we're working really hard to just fill all of some empty, missing teeth, as we call them, in the smile of downtown, and incentivize tenants to come open a business downtown and really support the people that live here now.
The Downtown Memphis Commission website says an estimated $2.5 billion is being placed into future projects. Where does this money come from?
So, nothing happens without desire from the development community. So we can make it an attractive place to choose, but it takes the willingness of our citizens and people from around the country who are wanting to move to Memphis, as well as the demand that developers are seeing the opportunity. We are really proud of our ability to reuse our buildings. So like ServiceMaster, the Tennessee Brewery had sat empty for 50 years and is now a beautiful apartment complex. It was a brewery. The Wonder Bread Bakery is now Orion Federal Credit Union's headquarters. So we're really capitalizing on the trend of keeping what's historically Memphis and staying authentic, and that's bringing a lot of demand to our area. As well as just the desire from a lot of young people to live downtown, as well as empty nesters. We have a good mix of both. The employers always help, so FedEx Logistics coming downtown, AutoZone growing, those are all obviously big helps as well. But it takes everything coming together, honestly.
More than 88,000 people work in office spaces in the downtown area and are pushing for more development. How will you accommodate their requests while also staying within your own goals?
So we're working hard on that right now. We're also, happy to see other mobility options. That's a big one to accommodating growth. But those things can be solved. What you can't trade is the assets you have, which are our riverfront, which is our great walkable downtown. So we look forward to more and more people choosing to be downtown, whether it's to work, live, or both. And we will address anything that comes before us. We're already planning ahead for that growth. We're doing a plan for all of downtown right now that looks ahead and says, what do we think that looks like and how do we accommodate and make it a great place? We don't get caught off guard by certain aspects of that growth.
Well, thank you, Ms. Oswald, for speaking with us. This was a great discussion.
Great. Thank you for having me.
As our walk down memory lane comes to an end, I can proudly say that downtown Memphis is a place unlike any other. From its rich history and famous landmarks to future developments in tourism, I hope you can say the same. I'm Kaitlyn Poindexter. From all of us here at GHS-TV, thank you for watching Crosstalk, and I hope to see you again.